Hey everybody, welcome back to the couch. I'm Melissa and this is Couch Mom Club. I assume you noticed that technology has become a major part of our day-to-day lives. These days, screens have become increasingly hard to avoid. But what about for our babies and our toddlers? Should they be watching screens as much as we do? There are many experts and studies that support the no screen policy for kids 2 years of age and under. Or they say when they're older than 2 years old, they should be watching 1 hour of screen per day. But in 2023, is that realistic? Can we completely avoid screens for our babies and toddlers? Well, maybe. But if you're like me and you use screens as a tool in your parental arsenal, the question isn't should kids be using screens, but instead, what should kids be using screens for? What are they watching? What are they doing? And how long are the kids supposed to be on their screens? In several of my videos, I have already addressed these questions. And for me, the question of how long, my answer is it depends. Is the screen being used for entertainment or educational purposes? Is it being used to connect with family and friends on FaceTime? If the screen is being used for any of these things throughout the day, for me, putting an hour time limit on a screen doesn't really make much sense. Instead, we determine how long the screen should be used based on what the screen is being used for. Going back to the other question, let's address what the child is doing with the screen. What is the screen being used for? In a video, I briefly listed a few shows I said simply don't work in my home. For example, Caillou doesn't work in my house. Dora the Explorer and that Tiefin Swiper doesn't work in my house. Encanto, we legit do not talk about Bruno because it doesn't work in my house. And Cocomelon doesn't work in my house. And for us, there are certain criteria to determine what works and what doesn't work. We ask questions like this. Is the show educational? Is the show entertaining for both the child and the parent? We have to enjoy it too because often we are watching with our kids and engaging the show with them. Are the shows giving wholesome messages? Does the show have any negative impact on my child's behavior? And how stimulating is the show? These are all questions that we want to ask. But children are also interacting with screens through games and web-based activities. And to determine what games and activities are approved in our home, we like to ask questions like this. Is the game or activity educational? Is it an activity that is age appropriate? Can the child navigate the activity or game on their own, or do they need our help? Does the game or activity challenge the child? Does the game or activity have any negative impact on my child's behavior? And of course, these are things that you want to consider when introducing screens to your child. Another thing you want to think about is when the child should use the screen. As a rule of thumb, for us in our home, screens should never be first or last in the day. This simply means that kids don't use their screens first thing in the morning, and they certainly don't use them right before bed. Screens can sometimes replace creativity or play, and we never want that to happen. We find that if we hold out on using the screen first thing in the morning, kids will find ways to entertain themselves, often using their imagination to come up with their own games and their own ways of having fun. Also, screens are stimulating, and we don't need that kind of stimulation first thing in the morning or right before bed. Using screens like this, with this method, it kind of keeps screens as a treat or a reward, and not a necessity, and it won't become an addiction. As much as screens have become a daily reality, it should never take the place of true parenting. Instead, it should be used as an intentional strategy for good parenting. In the next video, let's talk about Peppa Pig.
Peppa Pig.
Does Peppa Pig work in my home? What are your thoughts? Subscribe and click that bell so that you can join the couch conversations. And watch this video right here if you want to see my thoughts on Cocomelon.